You know, after a disappointing sequel, I knew I had to recover somehow. That's more like it. Megamind, when life gives you lemons, make a doomsday device. This animated superhero film isn't necessarily a masterpiece, but it's still pretty good. It was first titled Mastermind and then Ubermind for some weird reason. It was originally suggested that Ben Stiller would be cast as Megamind and later Robert Downey Jr., but Will Ferrell was ultimately given the role due to scheduling conflicts for Downey. Guillermo del Toro came on board 3 weeks before the end of production, but went on to have a more substantial role in subsequent DreamWorks animated films. With that, the movie gave the world a piece of its mind in theaters on November 5th, 2010, and it garnered generally positive reviews from critics and it did pretty well in the box office. And like B-Movie, it gained a cult following via a variety of internet memes. While it's not one of my favorite DreamWorks animated films, I do like it. Now, do I go back to it often? Well, I don't want to hurt your feelings. While Megamind is a great time, I only watch it like 2 to 3 times a year and that's it. But right now, I am in the mood to watch it one more time. Move out of the way, you piece of garbage. I'm going to be talking about an actual good movie here. The movie follows the story of, well, Megamind, a highly intelligent alien super villain. After defeating his longtime nemesis, Metro Man, Megamind creates a new hero to fight, but must act to save the city when his creation becomes an even worse villain than he was. I can only assume that DreamWorks is going for a Superman direction in terms of the story, but it's only inverse of that. Considering that we're only focusing on the villain than the hero, and his journey from a villain to a hero. And the comparison of the main characters are blatantly obvious. Metro Man? Well, that's super obvious. Roxanne Ritchie? She's Lois Lane. Hal Stewart? I guess he's Jimmy Olsen? Megamind? He's both Lex Luthor and I guess Brainiac. Heck, even Metro City is basically Metropolis without the Daily Planet. I guess it is interesting to see Megamind drive himself into an existential crisis after realizing that being bad isn't as fulfilling without a hero to fight. And it does deliver a message about identity, redemption, and the nature of good and evil. But man, I have questions. Okay, so the reason Megamind became a villain in the first place because he crash landed at a prison when he was a baby. Okay, that's a nice kick off to the plot, but you're telling me that only the prisoners were there to witness it? No guards, not even the warden? Because I can only assume that the warden meets Megamind for the first time when he causes a prison breakout, which makes me ask, the prisoners has been raising him without the guards noticing? Also, is the teacher just cool with Metro Man ripping the school out of the ground and fly away with it? Because that's a lot more concerning than whatever Megamind just did. Also, did Titan really expect that throwing and catching a girl a few times is a way to get a girlfriend? Because, big surprise, it's not. Wait, what was I talking about? Oh right, the story. I guess it's pretty good overall. I'm going to be saying this so often, but the animation here is practically the same thing that we saw before. It follows a familiar formula in terms of character designs. But at least the animation helps bring the fictional city of Metro City to life with a mix of modern and fantastical elements that supports the superhero genre. Which is pretty perfect for the action-oriented sequences. They're well animated with smooth transitions and creative use of camera angles. Which leads to an issue with the pacing, which may make it harder to follow the story or even appreciate the details. Especially that the pacing in certain scenes can feel rushed. The film also occasionally relies heavily on visual humor, which can detract from the story. While these gags are often entertaining, they sometimes feel forced or unnecessary, interrupting the flow of the narrative. But at this point in time, we might as well take the animation here for granted because they could do a lot worse. You know, it feels good to get this franchise out of my chest because I kinda regretted talking about the sequel to begin with. But the fact that Megamind is getting treated like dirt recently, it honestly kinda hurts. Because again, the first movie was honestly a great time even though it's not my favorite animated superhero film. And I guess the only problem I have with the sequel, despite the animation, is how inconsistent the story is. Now, I had the time to actually go back to it, and I did kind of notice how out of place everything is. It feels like if the writers didn't know where to continue from the first movie, so they threw some random stuff on there and see if it worked. But here's the thing, you really didn't need to, because the ending of the first movie felt right for Megamind because he knew what his real purpose was, which set off his journey from the very beginning. He was destined for greatness after all, at least that's what I know of. So the fact that Megamind got a sequel at all just feels unnecessary, and the fact that people were begging for a sequel to Megamind is dumb. Overall, Megamind is a refreshing take on the superhero genre, and I hope DreamWorks just leave it alone, because the damage was already done. Hopefully, I'm finally done with the Megamind franchise, and no, I'm not going to be talking about this show. The sequel already made it more painful. But to be fair, you can make a great sequel, you just have to make it more faithful to the first entry. But in this case, it failed miserably. But for now, I have to focus on franchises that has been already milked to death. And at this point, bring it on.